Sarah Ferguson is finally ready to tell the truth. All of it. The truth about how she really met Meghan. The truth about the private moments the public never saw. The truth about the social circles they both hung out in long before Meghan married Harry. And most importantly, the truth about what destroyed their relationship. This isn't just gossip. This isn't a rumor. This is Fergie, a woman who has survived scandals that would have destroyed anyone else, stepping forward with the kind of honesty that can shake up the entire royal story. Because while Meghan built a new life, a new image, and a carefully created story about how she entered the royal world, Sarah Ferguson was watching. She saw the real beginning. She saw the early moves. She saw the rise. And she saw the problems forming long before the public ever suspected anything. And now, with nothing left to lose, Fergie is ready to talk. Her story doesn't start with Meghan's wedding. It starts years earlier in places Meghan never expected anyone to talk about. And once Fergie begins to tell that story, it becomes clear exactly why her voice of all people is the most dangerous one Meghan Markle could ever face. Sarah Ferguson has always lived on the edge of the royal world, close enough to see its secrets, but far enough to feel its harsh punishments. She has survived scandals, money problems, and public embarrassment more times than anyone can count. Every time she managed to smile, rebuild, and keep moving. But now, sources say something has changed. For the first time in her life, Fergie is standing at a cliff with nothing behind her and nothing ahead. Her title no longer matters. Her former husband, Prince Andrew, brings more trouble than protection. The royal family is distancing itself, and the world she once lived in, rich, connected, and powerful, has shrunk into a cold, lonely corner. And when someone reaches that point, they become dangerous. That is why insiders believe Sarah's tell-all book isn't just a rumor. It's a warning shot, a message to the palace, to the press, and most importantly to Meghan Markle. Because Fergie hasn't forgotten how Meghan treated her. And she hasn't forgotten the secrets Meghan hoped would stay buried. A woman with nothing to lose is a woman capable of telling everything. Before Meghan ever stepped foot into Kensington Palace, she was already moving through some of the most exclusive social spaces in the world. Places filled with billionaires, politicians, and high-ranking royals. And those spaces were far from accidental. At the center of that world stood Marcus Anderson, a high-level figure at Soho House. He was known as a gatekeeper, someone who could decide who belonged with the influential and who didn't. He reportedly introduced Meghan to private dinners, elite parties, and high-value networks. Then there was Ron Burkle, a billionaire, a private jet owner, a man deeply connected to King Charles. Sources claim Meghan flew on Burkle's private plane to that Jamaica wedding, a quiet piece of information that tells a very loud story. Think about that contrast. Harry flew economy plus while Meghan arrived by private jet. People like Fergie notice things like that. That world notices who comes with privilege and who doesn't. And Meghan was already entering rooms with advantages many never questioned. So when people say Fergie knows Meghan's circles, it isn't an exaggeration. She knows the people. She knows the introductions. She knows who opened the doors for Meghan long before Harry did. And most importantly, she knows the version of Meghan that existed before the palace cameras turned on. That is the version she can write about. Long before the world suspected tension within the royal family, the earliest problems appeared quietly between Meghan and the York women. To understand why, you have to understand how that circle works. Beatrice and Eugenie grew up inside the royal system, but outside the royal spotlight. They knew the rules, but they also knew how to laugh at them. They were friendly with celebrities, but careful with strangers. They grew up watching their mother, Fergie, survive decades of judgment. So, when Meghan entered that world, they welcomed her politely. They understood the excitement. They understood the chaos. They understood what it felt like to be the new face in a world with very old expectations. But then something changed. Sources say Meghan began distancing herself, not slowly but sharply. She created a gap between herself and the York sisters, especially once she secured her position beside Harry. Conversations that once felt warm suddenly grew shorter. Invitations were ignored, and the sense of being equals quietly shifted into something colder. By the time Meghan and Harry settled into their new royal roles, the friction was impossible to ignore. Meghan allegedly treated Eugenie and Beatrice as if they were beneath her, tainted by their scandals, overshadowed by their parents, and unimportant to her new image. That attitude didn't sit well, not with the sisters, not with their friends, and certainly not with their mother. This simmering distance would eventually become one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, because when Meghan later ghosted Fergie entirely, that old resentment didn't fade. It snapped, and it set the stage for everything that comes next. Everything could have ended quietly. Fergie could have slipped into the background, lived her quiet life, and disappeared from the royal spotlight. But the moment that changed everything wasn't a scandal or a headline or an argument in front of cameras. It was a phone call that never happened. According to those familiar with the situation, when Sarah Ferguson reached out to Meghan Markle one last time looking for support, guidance, or even just a friendly voice, Meghan didn't respond. She didn't text. She didn't call. She simply vanished. And this wasn't a gentle fade out. This was a hard, deliberate ghosting. Sources claim Meghan wanted distance. Distance from the York family. Distance from Andrew. Distance from scandal. Distance from anything that didn't match her new polished image. In Meghan's world, Fergie was unnecessary, unhelpful, too messy, too complicated, too connected to things Meghan wanted no part of. But in cutting Fergie off, Meghan made a mistake bigger than she realized. Because Fergie isn't just another royal. She's a woman who knows where the doors are, who opened them, and what was said in the rooms Meghan would rather forget. Ghosting a person like that isn't just rude, it can be dangerous. And it was this moment, this silent, dismissive moment that sources say turned Sarah Ferguson from a former ally into a woman ready to speak. This is the spark that lit the fuse. When people hear the word tell-all, they imagine small gossip, awkward stories, maybe a few embarrassing moments. But that is not the kind of book insiders believe Fergie is preparing. Her version would be sharper, colder, and filled with the kind of details only someone who lived behind the scenes would understand. Among the secrets she could expose: 1. Meghan's past lifestyle and reputation in elite circles. There are long-standing whispers about how Meghan moved through high-end social environments. Not criminal, not illegal, but certainly not the fairy tale image the palace worked to present. 2. Meghan's alleged early interest in Prince Andrew. This comes directly from sources in the transcript world. Meghan, not yet attached to Harry, reportedly showed interest in Andrew before redirecting her attention. Fergie, who was still deeply involved with Andrew's life, allegedly shut that down instantly. 3. The tension caused by that encounter. Moments like these do not vanish. They leave marks and they create long, slow resentments that quietly grow between families. 4. The private jet trips and the people behind them. Things like flying on Ron Burkle's jet facilitated by Marcus Anderson paint a very different picture of Meghan's early rise, one that Fergie witnessed. 5. Tom and Skip and the wedding exclusion. Sources claim Harry's own friend knew too much about Meghan from years earlier. Fergie supposedly knows the full story behind why Meghan did not want him at the wedding. When you combine all of these pieces, you don't get a casual book. You get a weapon capable of rewriting Meghan's past, reshaping her image, and challenging the narrative she has worked relentlessly to control. And Fergie, pushed aside and ignored, just might be willing to house it. While all of this unfolds, something strange is happening inside Buckingham Palace. Silence. Not denial, not reassurance, not support for Meghan, just a cold, calculated quiet. According to insiders, King Charles is willing to negotiate with Fergie, willing to appease her, soften her, give her just enough to keep her from turning her pen against the crown. His history is long and complicated, and he knows a tell-all from someone like Fergie could poke holes in places he doesn't want examined. Prince William, however, plays a different game. He doesn't bend. He doesn't panic because, unlike others, he has nothing to fear from Fergie's memories. But this difference in strategy creates tension. Tension the public never sees. Tension Meghan probably never expected. Because if the palace feels a tell-all is unavoidable, If someone must be the sacrificial lamb, if her reputation needs to take the hit to distract from deeper issues, it won't be Charles. It won't be William. It won't be Camilla. It will be Meghan. A woman the institution no longer needs. A woman who walked away. A woman who refused to fall in line. And if Fergie becomes the voice that brings that downfall, the palace has every incentive to let the storm hit her instead of themselves. That silence, that stillness isn't calm. It's strategy. Imagine a quiet morning in Montecito. The sun rising. The air still. Meghan going about her day, believing the world is finally settling around her again, believing the noise has faded, believing the royal years are behind her. But far across the ocean, in a historic house filled with old memories and unfinished chapters, Sarah Ferguson begins to write. Not out of anger alone, not for money alone, but because for the first time in decades, she can speak, she can reveal, she can finally lift the curtain on years of observations, private moments, and quiet truths that never reach the public. This is the storm gathering on the horizon, silent, heavy, and unstoppable. And Meghan, who once mastered the art of reinvention, now faces something she cannot rebrand, outrun, or charm. A woman who has survived scandal after scandal. A woman who knows the old world and the new world. A woman who has watched Meghan rise through rooms she herself once dominated. A woman who feels betrayed. Fergie's tell-all wouldn't just expose Meghan's past. It would challenge her image, her marriage, her royal story, and the version of herself she presented to the world. And the most chilling part, Fergie has nothing to lose but Meghan. Meghan has everything. As this storm rolls closer, one question hangs in the air like thunder waiting to break. What happens when the woman Meghan underestimated the most becomes the one who can rewrite her entire legacy? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear. If Sarah Ferguson speaks, the world won't just hear a story. It will hear the truth Meghan never wanted told.